welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, Craig Burley, Casey Keller and Ali Moreno alongside me. Should we start with Cristiano Ronaldo, boys? Why not? This is what the front page of the Spanish newspapers has to say. Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid president, says, I'm going to have to speak with Cristiano.
Oh, no kidding.
That's a no-brainer, isn't it? I haven't even contemplated Cristiano leaving. For more on this, we're joined by Gab Marcotti, who's in Russia for the Confederations Cup. Gab, the reason why these quotes are so relevant, it's the first time, isn't it, we've heard any sort of statement about Cristiano Ronaldo's wishes to leave Real Madrid. It's the first time we've heard the club speak about it. What have you made of what's gone on over the last 72 hours?
Well, look, I mean, I think it was kind of predictable that that he would come out and say, no, he's not going anywhere, he's not for sale, and so on, because obviously that's a way to protect the value of your asset. And it also puts you in a situation where if Cristiano really does force a move, you can take a step back and say, well, guys, I did everything I could to keep him. As far as the other stuff with the taxes, there's nothing Florentino can really do now, certainly not in public.
Gab, do you think he's going to leave?
I honestly don't know. I think my hunch says he's going to stay because it makes sense for him to stay from a financial and branding perspective at this stage of the season. He's got 3 years left on a contract that pay him an enormous amount of money. If you believe the conspiracy theory that, in fact, this is all orchestrated for him to get, and some people do believe this, Dan, that this is all orchestrated for him to have a tidy exit from the club. So, in other words, Real Madrid gets some money back. They don't have to worry about his skills declining. Cristiano gets a move elsewhere, perhaps to Manchester United, perhaps to Paris Saint-Germain, where he can continue being a big star. But crucially, it becomes a question of Cristiano leaving because of persecution from the taxman, not because he's unhappy or doesn't like Real Madrid. And it becomes a question of Florentino supposedly doing everything he can to keep him. I'm not saying that that's correct, but that is a theory, an explanation that's doing the rounds here.
Meanwhile, let's take a look at some other transfer rumours. The front page of Tutto Sport says, goodbye, Dani Alves. The double N is very relevant because it means damage Alves in Italian. He really has fallen out with the Juve fans since coming out and saying that Dybala needs to leave the club to grow as a player. He then, of course, put on Instagram his boot from the 2015 Champions League final in which Barcelona beat Juventus. Manchester City looks to be his destination. This has been an almighty fallout from the man who was the star of the show throughout Juventus' Champions League campaign.
It certainly was. I mean, it's curious, too, because, he does have another year left on his contract. But I think from Juve's perspective, they have other targets. They're thankful for his contributions this year. But you can't go and have somebody, going and questioning in public a guy they call La Joya, the jewel, for a very good reason, Paulo Dybala. So given he was only going to contribute one more year, I think Juve have decided to cut their losses. And frankly, I think it fits Dani Alves just fine.
Does he fit at Manchester City for you, Craig?
Well, what you've got to ask, I know he's, look, in an ideal world, they bring in a younger player. But what you've got to ask, is he better than the fullbacks that they already have? And that's a cast iron yes. He had a great season, but he didn't have a great Champions League final. In fact, it was probably one of his worst games of the season. But I think when he left Barca, he kind of fell out there as well, didn't he? He was a little bit unhappy. And he's making all the noises here that he wants to go. Whether he fits into the mould of what City are looking for going forward longer term, only Pep could answer that question.
Yeah, it's not a long-term solution for Manchester City, but certainly an upgrade to what they had. From the perspective of Juventus, though, just as a pure business deal, fine. If you want to sell Dani Alves, don't do it at a discount. Don't do it at a rollback price. Don't do it at a clearance price. It just doesn't make any sense. There is value for this player out there. Even if there are some feelings that perhaps you cannot work your way through, make this an objective decision and make this a business decision and get value for money here when it comes to Dani Alves. I just don't see how this works out for Juventus, but for Manchester City, it's quite the bargain.
But it makes you think that there must be some underlying issues, particularly in the locker room or with the board, because Sally's point, you would make a business decision unless there was an issue going on and you're just saying, we just need to get rid of this headache no matter what it costs us.
I mean, if you're saying publicly about Paulo Dybala,
yes,
what the hell's going on privately?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and with, as Gab said, one of the crown jewels for Juventus, a real up-and-coming potential star. Now, that's just going to create such an unrest around the whole club that it can't last.
Gab, we're hearing that Juventus might even rescind his contract. Why on earth would they do that?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, you know, the reality is you're talking about a guy at this stage of his career. He's on very big wages. He has a year left, and he's 35 years old. So it's not, you know, he's not going to have that much transfer value in him. And so I think the easiest, simplest way is to let him go for nothing, which is sort of the equivalent of rescinding his contract. I mean, it's a formula whereby they would pay him a portion of next season's wages and let him go.
Meanwhile, let's stick with Italian news. It's the front page of Gazzetta dello Sport, which was saying, think again, Gigi. Of course, Donnarumma saying he's not going to sign a new contract at AC Milan. This has caused so much of a stir amongst the supporters. Gazzetta basically writing a column, Gab, pleading for the youngster to stay, giving him reasons as to why he should remain at AC Milan.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who feel that way, that he needs to stick around. Obviously, Gazzetta dello Sport is a newspaper from Milan. It's read by a lot of Milan fans. Certainly, there's more Milan fans reading Gazzetta dello Sport than there are fans of Mino Raiola. And so I think that's the way it's been projected. Milan have spent money this year. They've been very active in the transfer window. Will it be enough to change his mind? I'm not so negative about this. I mean, I think unless he moves this summer, if he really is going to ride it out towards free agency, I think if Milan show that they can play, if many of these newcomers from Silva to Kessi to Ricardo Rodriguez, if these guys perform and it shows that the club's moving in the right direction, I don't think it's impossible that Donnarumma might change his mind and go back and extend his deal. And it might not be until, next season. But, we're so used to players not winding down towards free agency. But sometimes it happens. It's exactly what Roy Keane did a few years ago. Waited until the very end, waited until the summer, I think, and then eventually put pen to paper. That was Roy Keane. That was Manchester United. I don't see why Donnarumma should be any different.
I suppose the thing is, you just take a look at his age, Casey, and we saw what happened, didn't we, in the Under-21 Championships. He's playing for Italy at the moment. A group of fans throwing money onto the pitch. Gab, obviously, Gab is ever the romantic, the optimist. He believes that maybe this can all play out. But surely it must be hard enough being a keeper when the away fans are chanting at you, but to have the home fans all over you as well...
Yes.
At that age, surely?
It could be a significant distraction for a full season.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you... I mean, you can deal with it. I mean, it's not a problem. You deal with it. But still you have to think what Milan will do. I mean, will they continue to play a guy who obviously they're planning on being a big future or planning on getting a large paycheck for? And then if he sees his contract out, is there some sort of vindictiveness? Or are they just saying, fine, we'll just... bench you, we'll sign somebody else, we'll just make your year hell. And you're playing at a big club as a young keeper. You go around the world, show me how many 18-year-olds are playing at big clubs in the world.
Playing for Milan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's entitled to do what he wants.
Correct.
Aren't fans very objective when it comes to things? They never take things personally, do they, when somebody...
Well, I remember when Wayne Rooney a few years ago, when he said he wanted to leave, people were camping outside his house, shouting abuse at him, and then all of a sudden he...
Well, there's no reality, is there, when it comes to stuff like this, because players come and go and players move on. We've talked for several days about Mbappe leaving. He's 18, one of the most sought-after players in the world. We know how important, although we won't admit it, a goalkeeping position is. And so there will be lots of clubs out there looking for youngsters. And it just comes down to when's the right time to go.
Right.
I hasten to add, he's not exactly in a bad home where he is, but he might think there's a better one somewhere else, be it in Italy or outside. So it's his decision.
If I were Gigi Donnarumma, I would be doing exactly the same thing. if I'm given the opportunity to finish out my contract and be a free agent, where now it maximizes my earning potential because there will be multiple bidders, then of course I'm going to do that. The issue here and the mistake here is by AC Milan in not having the foresight to say, you know what, this guy is somebody who we can build our club around, that we can not only surround him with players, but we can sell him on the idea that he can be the one-man club, that he can be this part of the turnaround of what AC Milan had been in the past and what they are in right now. If you had gone to Donnarumma a couple of years ago and say, hey, you are part of this project, a central part of this project, and you don't have the market to worry about, you don't have other bidders to worry about, then it becomes a whole lot easier to negotiate. But you allow this to get this far, it's negligence by AC Milan, and of course, if you're Donnarumma and you're the agent, you see it out. And now you allow other people to come into the bidding war.
Of course, for a lot more on these stories and indeed all the big transfer rumours, go over to espnfc.com and follow Transfer Talk. Welcome back. What a strange old summer it has been for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. This is a player, of course, was top scorer in the Bundesliga last year, heralded as one of the top strikers in Europe. It was thought he was going to leave Dortmund to go to PSG. They changed their mind, apparently, said he was too expensive. He has since been linked to Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City. All three clubs have distanced themselves away from the rumours for a move for the striker. Gab, what's going on?
Well, Dan, you know how it is. It's kind of like when you go to a jumble sale or a tag sale or something, and you pretend you're not really interested in something, but you know that sort of when it comes closer to closing time, you might be able to get it at a price you like. I think that's what we're seeing right now. Certainly, they quoted a huge price for to PSG. That didn't quite work out. When PSG didn't jump on it immediately, they tried to generate more interest. I think at this stage, if Aubameyang wants a move, I think he will get a move. I just think we have to wait a little bit later in the summer because we're only still in mid-June.
We had Julian on yesterday, boys, and we were talking about the possibility, for example, of moving to Arsenal, saying that he didn't think it was quite the type of player that Arsenal need because of the style of play that they'd play as opposed to his style of play. Does that make sense for you in the sense that they said he's fast, he's better on the break, and Arsenal don't play on that?
Well, I think there is a slight flaw to that argument, is that the Arsenal side of recent years are nowhere near dominating games like they once were. OK, maybe against weaker teams in the Prem, but they used to boss pretty much them all, especially the Invincibles, in years gone by. So I don't quite see how... It's not as if every team just buckles in and hunches down against Arsenal and plays everybody behind the ball. It just doesn't happen anymore.
I can't believe, by the way, that you just let go the idea of Gab Marcotti in a flea market negotiating a price for an old cabinet.
I can see Gab doing it.
No, well,
it wouldn't be an old cabinet, it'd be some sort of old book. Or card of some sort.
Negotiating.
Casey knows a tag style.
Of course. When it comes to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, if this guy is capable of leading the Bundesliga in goal scores, he would be an asset to you.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal is in a position now where they need assets. He would be an important player for them.
Where do you think he'd fit? Because PSG saying we can't play him with a Cavani. City was a weird one anyway. They've got Jesus and Aguero. Right. Liverpool would actually be a good option, which is a big decision for him.
Except for there was, I think, some tension at some stage where he didn't necessarily speak kindly of the exiting manager.
Everyone loves Jurgen Klopp, Case.
Yeah, but supposedly there was a little bit of words there. But I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think to Ali's point. I mean, he's a proven goal scorer. It wasn't a one-season wonder. He backed it up with actually more goals the following season. I think it comes down to which team needs a goal scorer and is willing to pay what Dortmund wants. Now, then it comes down to price.
Yeah.
And is he a 70, 80 million? Because also with that price, you need marketing. You need some guy who's going to sell a bunch of shirts, who's going to give a lot of interest. And
if you're paying by the letter, it's all right.
And I'm not sure Aubameyang is a guy that is going to sell $70, $80 million worth of shirts.
I mean, he's at that stage of his career. He's at the peak of his career, and he's on that sort of nearly ship. He's going to be jumping. I mean, you talk about Liverpool. apart from a potential relationship with Klopp luring him in, he's gone from Dortmund, who are going to be challenging for Bundesliga, and they're going to be quarter-finalish in the Champions League. Liverpool ain't even going to get that far because they're a work in progress. So he's looking like he's going to go from one ship that's finishing second or third best to somewhere else that's in the same boat, unless he goes to a Real Madrid, which we don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, do you see him right now at one of those marquee? Do you see him at a Real Madrid, a Barcelona? No. A Bayern Munich, a team. And the question is no. So almost you're at a fantastic club. Why not just stay at a fantastic club?
When it comes to Arsenal, by the way, he's going to have to wait what happens with Alexis Sanchez and with Mesut Ozil. And then from there, they'll make a decision. But I just don't know. There must be something about Aubameyang that some teams are scared of.
Yeah.
Because a guy that's scoring goals and they're not jumping on him and he's not their first choice, there must be something that we don't know, that we're not privy to, that other teams are saying, you know what, he's not for us.
Meanwhile, Gab, let's rewind it, shall we, to the Champions League final. Some interesting reports. We've heard whispers, haven't we? And they seem to have snowballed over recent days about a fight at half-time in the dressing room, led by Bonucci, targeted at Dybala, saying that Dybala was on a yellow card. He was playing within himself, trying not to get sent off. Reports today that Bonucci actually slapped the Argentinian international. He went to Facebook and he denied all of these reports. Do you think there's any truth in any of them?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think these reports were carried in La Stampa, which is a newspaper from Turin. It's actually owned by the Agnelli family, who also own Juventus. Make of that what you will. But certainly Juventus as a club have denied it as well, in addition to Bonucci. To me, I think the broader story here is that somebody violated the sanctity of the dressing room, and I think. The gentleman there with you can probably tell you more about how important that is, or perhaps not important.
Pick on the little guy, yeah?
You're a really little guy, it's true.
It doesn't make sense to me because, why would a player, if you're saying that and he was booked early in the game, stupidly, you're playing within yourself because you're booked. Well, of course you are. Once you're booked so early, can you imagine if it went the other way and he was running about like a crazy nut job and got himself sent off in the first half? What would Bonucci have said at half-time then? So it kind of just doesn't stack up.
Meanwhile, Gab, you got all these rumours about the fractured relationship between Bonucci and Allegri.
Look, I mean, I don't think there's much question that Bonucci probably had a better relationship with Antonio Conte, bizarrely, at least at times. They've had issues earlier this year. I think to some degree this is snowballing a little bit. Again, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, then you can point out that Juve extended Mehdi Benassia's contract. They also have Rugani. They've signed Caldara. So if they were to sell Bonucci, this is the time to do it. But there's been no real suggestion, I think, of that. Most of the rumors were from last summer. Personally, I would imagine everything's gonna calm down and he's gonna be back.
It's amazing what a pasting in the Champions League final does for a few stories.
Indeed. Keeps us going over the summer, though, doesn't it? We are with you, of course, 6 days a week. Check your local listings for times. Welcome back. A sad day then for US soccer, as it's confirmed that Tony DiCicco died at the age of 68. Of course, a man who was in charge of the US women's national team for 5 years, from 94 to 99. During that time, leading them to Olympic gold in 96 and the Women's World Cup in 99. He was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 2012. Julie Foudy joins us now. Julie, what did Tony mean to you?
Oh, gosh. Tony was, it's like family. He had this incredible ability to not just be a coach, but to be a friend, to be a mentor, to be a second dad to many of us as we were all living together in Florida, the team. And he, most importantly, I mean, everyone knows him for his successes on the field, of course, but what I think all the players cherish Tony for is that he was just a wonderful human being that was so grateful and appreciative to be the coach of the United States and to wear the red, white, and blue. And he passed that on to us, this joy and laughter with everything we did. And that was what Tony brought. He'd walk out to the field every morning and go, "I love my job." He'd be laughing, and it was pure joy in what he did.
That seems to be reiterated by so many of your former teammates on social media, Julie. You look at it, what did he mean for the game looking back?
Well, I think he allowed us with that group, right? It was a pioneering group of some pretty strong-willed women to be us and to be authentically us. And I like that about him, is that he understood that there was a lot of joy in us playing together, and he allowed us to be a family. And by doing so, I mean, I watch, when the Golden State Warriors win and they talk about their teammates and each other and the family of Steve Kerr has built, I think of what Tony did for us in that sense. And to do it with so much pressure to perform as in the 96 Olympics with the first ever women's soccer competition happening, to do it with the first ever women's World Cup happening in the United States and the pressure to get to the final, to have someone at the helm who was steadying and was family first and team first, I think really set the course of what our team was able to do.
Julie, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Kate Markgraf was also, of course, a part of that successful team in the 90s, led by Tony. Kate, what did he mean to you?
Tony is the reason why I had the career that I did. He spotted me in 94 and said, "Hey, I want to invite you into camp." And I went into camp and I actually failed miserably. I passed out in the fitness test. I was so embarrassed. I basically did horrible in my first tryout. And I never wanted to come back and try out for the national team. So he spent 4 years trying to get me to come back into a national team camp. And I finally said yes, only because he tricked me and said I was coming in for a youth camp and just end my career, my collegiate career, playing one more time for the youth national team. Ends up the full women's team was having a camp at the same place. He switched my locker. So when I went to go show up for the first day of youth camp, my locker was actually with the full women's team. And he made me go and get over my embarrassment from 4 years earlier. And without that and that persistence, I would never have gotten to where I've gotten. My career trajectory totally changed. And, he always had an excellent eye for talent. And he also was just a wonderful manager. So he just knew how to manage people.
Well, it's an incredible story, Kate, and it's an insight into what sort of man he was.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, what coach goes after a player who basically says, no, this is a dream, an opportunity of a lifetime, but turns it down because of their own fear? And that's what he did for all of us. He saw something in all of us. Christy Rampone, who has gone on to be one of the most capped defenders, second behind Christine Lilly. I mean, she was a forward at a small D3 school, which was unheard of because you usually just had to go to North Carolina and some of the bigger schools like Stanford, Julie Foudy, who was on earlier. So he saw talent in her, and he turned her into a defender, and she ended up being one of the best defenders in the world while she played. So that's his ability to spot that, and then his ability to believe in us is what gave so many of us our careers.
And, of course, looking back, his legacy was the 99 World Cup.
Yeah, it really was. And what was incredible about that was he was really on the cusp of using sports psychology, because that was a really huge movement that was building. And then as we started winning in the World Cup, he made sure we started using a sports psychologist, because even before we knew it, he envisioned what it could become and the additional pressures we had on our shoulders to help grow the game, not only the beautiful game of soccer, but also the view of female athletes in this country. So without that, I don't know if we would have been able to handle that pressure. And that's just him realizing that he couldn't cover that aspect of the game. So he went out and found someone who could. So just knowing strengths and weaknesses, not only of us, but of others, and figuring out how to complement one another was just incredible.
Kate Markgraf, thank you very much for your time, and thanks to Julie Foudy as well. A fitting tribute from both of those who knew him best. Tony DiCicco, who died today at the age of 68. Welcome back. According to reports in Italy, Mohamed Salah will be going to Liverpool for the start of next season. Stevie Nicol, on this very couch, has said he's not sure where he would play because he wouldn't play him ahead of Coutinho or Sané. Has he got a point?
Yeah, I think so. But it might worry a few Liverpool fans about some of the rumours surrounding Coutinho as the season went on, and Barcelona was mentioned. So a good addition to the squad, I would say that for sure.
But doesn't necessarily start?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah, and that's tricky. You would think that Liverpool are looking to build and really improve the starting lineup. I agree, good squad guy, but I'm not sure if he's an out-and-out starter.
Didn't do so well with Chelsea when he first came around the Premier League, and then went to Roma and everything was working out for Salah. It certainly became a difference maker for them. We'll see what version of Salah we get once he comes back into the Premier League. But for Liverpool, it's yet another talented player in the attacking half.
All right, boys, thank you very much. If you see Xhaka tonight, by the way, give him our regards.
Huh? What?
Can't talk. Welcome to Extra Time. I'll tell you what, every day is a school day here on the FC Couch. I learned today that, Casey, you grew up with 30,000 chickens. 40,000 chickens. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Not for egg farm.
Did you have to catch them and things?
Yes. Yes.
That's
That's
a
where
lot
the
of eggs.
goalkeeping comes from.
Yeah, the chickens just shot the eggs out, and I had to try to... What do you think?
Soft hands. Yes,
Hey,
good.
there you are, parents. If you want your kids to take the goalkeeping route, buy some chickens.
Well, it didn't do much for Sylvester Stallone, did it?
You're going to have to fill in the gaps.
No? Rocky.
Yeah, he was catching the chicken.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're slow. Just read. He was catching chickens when he couldn't box.
I was catching the eggs. He was catching the chickens.
Let me just...
That was the difference.
He's catching chickens.
I was catching the eggs.
Yeah,
Yes.
goalkeeping.
Well, I mean, the eggs weren't exactly dropping that far. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but I mean, if a chicken's only that height...
Are you putting an egg now? Are you dropping an egg? Is this what's happening? What's going on? He's dropping an egg.
The chicken's not up here, is it?
That's a big chicken.
So if he's catching the chicken egg, it's not going to fall far.
Solid sized chicken right here.
I mean, you just get your hand in there.
Just to make sure you know, there's no chicken.
No.
40,000 chickens.
You know,
A lot of eggs.
40,000 a day.
Which came first?
Did you like omelets?
I wasn't an egg fan when I was a kid.
Oh. How about now?
Yes.
What about after he just dropped an egg?
Not those eggs.
Should Manchester United pursue Aubameyang from Borussia Dortmund? He's reportedly rumoured at £60 million. That's a bargain compared to Morata. Who do you have? Morata or Aubameyang? It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Betty Pace would go... One of the criticisms of United last year was that Ibrahimovic was a little slow. I thought he was great, but that was one of the criticisms. Aubameyang's got all the pace. Right here and now, I'd take Aubameyang.
Casey, who do you have?
Yeah, I like Aubameyang.
Yeah?
I think he would fit in at Man
Ahead of
U.
Morata?
I mean, I like Morata's a good player, but I like Aubameyang.
Yeah, you're taking the future of Morata rather than the immediate with Aubameyang. Morata may just be a better option long term.
Casey, should the US play a lot of youngsters at the Gold Cup?
Definitely. You know, I think it's an opportunity, particularly if you plan. You're hearing rumors that Bruce Arena's talking about, maybe not bringing in the European guys, letting them go on vacation before they go back after the qualifying schedule. So, yeah, bring some young guys in, see what you got. It's a competition that matters as opposed to playing in a friendly. So, see if some kids can do it.
Do you think Lewandowski will leave Bayern and sign for Chelsea? No. That's one no. Casey?
I don't think so.
That's two no's.
That's a negative, Ghost Rider.
Okay, thank you very much, ESPN FC.
Chickens!
Back with you tomorrow. 40,000 chickens. Oh, it's like Sylvester Stallone.
What?
6 p.m.
Don't try and get out of it now.
What do you mean?
You hadn't got a clue.